Imagine yourself in a quiet hospital room at 3 a.m. The machines have been turned off. The medical charts no longer matter. Your loved ones have said their goodbyes, and now it's just you, alone with your thoughts, feeling the weight of an entire lifetime pressing down on your consciousness. In these final moments, as your breath grows shallow and your heartbeat slows, one question rises above all the noise, all the regrets, all the what-ifs. Am I proud of the life I've lived? Not proud of your achievements, those external validations that once seemed so important. Not proud of the money you accumulated, the titles you earned, or the applause you received. But proud in the deepest, most authentic sense. Proud of who you became when no one was watching. Proud of how you loved when love was difficult. Proud of the moments when you chose courage over comfort, truth over popularity, service over self-interest. This isn't some morbid contemplation designed to frighten you into action. This is perhaps the most important question you'll ever ask yourself, because it strips away everything superficial and gets to the core of what it means to live a meaningful human existence. It's the question that can transform an ordinary Tuesday into a sacred opportunity, an unremarkable conversation into a moment of profound connection, a simple act of kindness into a legacy that echoes through generations. What if I told you that America's most documented psychic once gave a reading that would forever change how we think about life's purpose? In 1932, during one of his most profound sessions at his Virginia Beach headquarters, Edgar Cayce delivered a message so powerful about living authentically that it still transforms lives nearly a century later. If this resonates with your soul, drop a heart in the comments below. I'll mark every single one with love, and don't forget to subscribe for more life-changing wisdom from the sleeping prophet. The man who walked into Edgar Cayce's modest office on that crisp October morning in 1932 was everything America celebrated during the Great Depression, a self-made success story. At 45, Harold Mitchell owned 3 manufacturing plants across Ohio, employed over 200 people, and had weathered the economic storm better than most. His children attended the finest schools, his wife wore the latest fashions, and his name appeared regularly in the business sections of Cleveland newspapers. By every external measure, Harold Mitchell had won at life. Yet as he sat across from Cayce's secretary, Gladys Davis, filling out the standard information form, Harold's hands trembled slightly. The confident businessman facade couldn't quite hide the deep spiritual exhaustion that had driven him to seek help from a man many considered either a miracle worker or a charlatan, sometimes both. "I don't understand what's happening to me," Harold had written in his letter requesting the reading. "I have everything I thought I wanted, yet I feel empty inside. I wake up each morning wondering if this is all there is. I go through the motions of my successful life, but it feels like I'm living someone else's dream. I need guidance, not about business or money, but about meaning, about purpose, about whether I'm wasting the life I've been given." When Edgar Cayce entered the room that day, Harold was struck by how ordinary the man looked. Medium height, thinning brown hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed spectacles. Nothing about his appearance suggested he possessed extraordinary abilities. Yet within moments, Harold felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years, as if Cayce's very presence carried some indefinable quality of spiritual depth. Cayce's process was always the same. He would loosen his tie, remove his shoes, and lie down on the simple couch in his office. Gladys would take her position at the stenographer's desk, fingers poised over the keys. Cayce would place his hands over his solar plexus, close his eyes, and within minutes, his breathing would deepen. His face would relax completely, and when he spoke again, it would be in a voice subtly different from his normal Kentucky accent, more formal, more measured, as if the words were coming from some deeper source of wisdom. "Yes, we have the entity now known as Harold Mitchell," came the familiar opening that began every Cayce reading. But what followed was unlike anything in the thousands of readings Cayce had given before or would give after. This entity comes seeking understanding of success, of purpose, of the meaning that seems to elude despite material abundance. And we find that this is not a question unique to this entity, but one that echoes through the halls of human consciousness in every age, in every culture, among all peoples who have awakened to the deeper calling of the soul. Harold leaned forward, his successful businessman's skepticism melting away as the voice continued with an authority and compassion that penetrated straight to his heart. Understand this fundamental truth. You have not come to this plane of existence by accident. Your soul, that eternal part of you that exists beyond this temporary physical form, chose to be here in this time, in this place, with these specific gifts and challenges, for purposes far greater than the accumulation of wealth or the achievement of worldly recognition. The voice paused, and in that silence, Harold felt something shift deep within his chest, as if a door he hadn't even known was closed was slowly beginning to open. Each soul enters this earthly experience carrying what might be called a sacred contract, an agreement made in the spiritual realms before birth, outlining the lessons to be learned, the service to be rendered, and the love to be expressed through this particular lifetime. The tragedy is not that souls fail to fulfill this contract perfectly, for perfection is not expected of any entity walking in physical form. The tragedy is when a soul becomes so distracted by the temporary concerns of earthly existence that it forgets entirely why it came. Harold's breath caught in his throat. Everything about his successful life suddenly felt insubstantial, like elaborate stage props in a play where he'd forgotten his real role. You ask about success, the voice continued, growing more resonant with each word. But success, as understood by the soul, bears little resemblance to success as defined by your world. True success is not measured in dollars accumulated, positions attained, or approval received from others. True success is measured by how closely your daily actions, thoughts, and intentions align with your soul's original purpose for entering this experience. The reading continued for over an hour, each word carefully transcribed by Gladys Davis. What emerged was not just guidance for Harold, but a blueprint for authentic living that would later be studied and cherished by seekers worldwide. Picture this, the voice said, and Harold found himself transported by the imagery that followed. Imagine yourself at the end of your earthly journey. Your body has grown old and worn, your strength has faded, and the moment approaches when you must release your grip on this physical existence and return to the spiritual realm from which you came. Harold closed his eyes, allowing the vision to unfold in his mind with startling clarity. In those final moments, the wealth you accumulated will be meaningless. You cannot carry a single dollar with you into eternity. The titles you held will be forgotten. They were temporary labels that never defined your true worth. The applause you received will be silent, for earthly recognition cannot purchase even one additional moment of life. The room seemed to hold its breath as the voice continued, painting a picture both sobering and strangely comforting. What will matter in those final moments? What will determine whether you transition with peace or regret? Are these questions. Did you love deeply, not just those who were easy to love, but those who challenged you to grow? Did you serve genuinely, using your gifts not merely for personal gain, but for the betterment of others? Did you live authentically, remaining true to your soul's deeper knowing, even when the world demanded you conform to its limited expectations? Harold felt tears forming in his eyes as the reading continued, each question piercing through layers of societal conditioning to touch something raw and real within him. Did you choose courage over comfort when faced with decisions that mattered? Did you speak truth when silence would have been safer but less honest? Did you extend forgiveness, both to others and to yourself, understanding that holding grudges only imprisons the holder? Did you express creativity, bringing forth the unique gifts and perspectives that only you could contribute to the human experience? The businessman in Harold wanted to argue, to point out all his achievements and contributions, but a deeper part of him, the part that had been quietly suffocating under the weight of societal expectations, recognized the profound truth in these words. Most importantly, the voice continued with infinite tenderness, did you remember that you are not merely a human being having occasional spiritual experiences, but rather a spiritual being having a temporary human experience? Did you honor the divine spark within yourself and recognize that same spark in every other soul you encountered? The reading then took an unexpected turn, as if Cayce's higher consciousness was anticipating Harold's next question. You wonder how to begin living authentically when you feel trapped by the life you have already built, the expectations of others, the financial obligations and social responsibilities that seem to leave little room for soul expression. Understand this. Authentic living does not require you to abandon your current circumstances or reject your achievements. Rather, it requires you to infuse your existing life with deeper meaning and purpose. Harold leaned forward eagerly, hungry for practical guidance. Your business success, properly understood, is not separate from your spiritual purpose. It is a vehicle for expressing that purpose. Your leadership abilities, your financial resources, your influence in your community. These are not accidents or rewards for good behavior. They are tools entrusted to you for service to the greater good. The voice outlined what would become Harold's life-transforming mission: to maintain his business success while using it as a platform for demonstrating love, compassion, and service. To treat his employees not as resources to be exploited, but as fellow souls deserving of dignity and opportunity. To use his wealth not merely for personal luxury, but for contributing to causes that uplift humanity. The question is not whether you will succeed in worldly terms, the reading continued, but whether you will succeed in soul terms. And soul success is measured by love expressed, service rendered, and growth achieved through the challenges and opportunities of each day. What happened next would become one of the most quoted passages in Cayce literature. Words that have been spoken at countless memorial services and printed on inspiration cards carried in wallets around the world. When you stand before the mirror of eternity, that moment of life review that every soul experiences upon leaving physical form, you will not be judged by how perfectly you performed, for perfection is not the expectation. You will be lovingly evaluated based on how courageously you attempted to fulfill your soul's purpose, how genuinely you loved, how willingly you served, and how persistently you grew. The voice paused, and Harold felt as if the entire universe was waiting for what came next. The soul that can stand in that sacred space and say, "I lived my truth even when it was difficult. I loved without reservation even when love was not returned. I served with my whole heart even when my efforts went unrecognized. I learned and grew from every experience, both joyful and painful. That soul has succeeded beyond all earthly measure." But the reading wasn't finished. What came next would provide Harold with a roadmap he would follow for the remaining 43 years of his life. Understand that authentic living is not a destination to be reached, but a practice to be cultivated daily. Each morning when you awaken, before you check your schedule or read the news or begin planning your day, ask yourself this: how can I express love today? How can I be of service today? How can I remain true to my deeper purpose today? These simple questions, consistently applied, have the power to transform any life into a sacred journey. The reading continued with specific guidance that was both mystical and practical. Cayce spoke of meditation as daily communion with the divine, not as an escape from worldly responsibilities, but as preparation for more effective service. He outlined the importance of seeing every interaction as an opportunity for soul growth, every challenge as a classroom for developing patience and wisdom, every success as a chance to practice gratitude and humility. Remember that you are interconnected with all life, the voice explained. Your choices ripple outward in ways you cannot imagine, affecting not only those around you but generations yet unborn. When you choose love over fear, service over selfishness, authenticity over pretense, you contribute to the elevation of human consciousness itself. As the reading drew toward its close, Harold felt fundamentally changed. The emptiness that had driven him to seek guidance was being filled with something he could only describe as divine purpose. "Before we close, Cayce," the voice said, "understand this final truth. It is never too late to begin living authentically. Whether you are 25 or 75, whether you feel you have wasted years in pursuits that did not feed your soul, whether you carry regrets about roads not taken or words not spoken, every moment offers a fresh opportunity to align more closely with your soul's purpose." The reading ended with words that would echo in Harold's mind for decades. Go forth knowing that you are loved beyond measure by the creative force of the universe, that your life has profound meaning and purpose, and that every day you are given is another chance to express the unique combination of love, creativity, and service that only you can bring to the world. When Edgar Cayce emerged from his trance 20 minutes later, Harold was quietly weeping, not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time in years, he understood not just what he was living for, but why he was alive at all. The transformation in Harold's life was immediate and profound. He restructured his entire business model, implementing profit-sharing programs that were revolutionary for the 1930s. He created educational opportunities for his workers' children, funded healthcare clinics in the communities where his factories operated, and established a foundation dedicated to supporting families affected by the Depression. But the changes went deeper than business practices. Harold began each day with meditation and prayer, aligning himself with what he came to call his soul's compass. He approached every interaction, whether with a wealthy client or a janitor in his building, as an encounter with a fellow spiritual being deserving of respect and kindness. His relationships transformed as well. His marriage, which had become perfunctory after 20 years, rekindled with new intimacy as Harold learned to love his wife not just as a companion, but as a soul on her own sacred journey. His children, previously impressed mainly by their father's financial success, discovered a depth and wisdom in him they had never known existed. The businessman who had entered Cayce's office feeling spiritually bankrupt emerged as someone who understood that true wealth cannot be measured in dollars, but in the love shared, the lives touched, and the consciousness expanded through authentic living. Harold kept detailed journals for the rest of his life, documenting how the principles from that reading played out in daily experience. He wrote about the morning he chose to personally visit an employee who had been injured rather than simply sending flowers and a get-well card. He described the profound satisfaction he felt when he used his business connections to help a struggling widow start her own shop, rather than simply writing her a check. Most importantly, he documented how the question from his reading, "Would you be proud of the life you've lived?" became his daily barometer for decision-making. Before every important choice, he would pause and ask himself, "Will this action serve my soul's purpose? Will this choice be something I can be proud of when my earthly journey ends?" The reading had taught Harold that pride, properly understood, is not about ego or superiority. Soul pride comes from knowing you have been faithful to your highest calling, that you have used your gifts in service of something greater than yourself, that you have contributed to the grand tapestry of human experience in ways that honored both your unique individuality and your connection to all life. Years later, when Harold was diagnosed with heart disease and knew his time on Earth was drawing to a close, he returned to Virginia Beach one final time. Edgar Cayce had passed away in 1945, but the Association for Research and Enlightenment continued his work. Harold met with Hugh Lynn Cayce, Edgar's son, and shared how that single reading had transformed not just his life, but the lives of the hundreds of people he had been able to help because of his spiritual awakening. "Your father gave me something more valuable than all my business success combined," Harold told Hugh Lynn. "He gave me the understanding that life is not about what you accomplish, but about who you become in the process of accomplishing it. He taught me that we are all here to learn love, express creativity, and be of service, and that these purposes can be fulfilled through any life circumstance if we have the awareness to see the opportunities." When Harold Mitchell passed away peacefully in his sleep in 1975, his memorial service was standing room only. Hundreds of people came to honor not a successful businessman, but a man who had lived authentically and served others. The pastor read from the Cayce reading that had changed Harold's life, and there wasn't a dry eye in the chapel. But perhaps the most powerful testimony came from Harold's own words, found in his final journal entry. "As I prepare to leave this earthly experience, I can honestly say I am proud of the life I have lived. Not perfect, no human life ever is, but authentic. I loved deeply, served genuinely, and remained true to my soul's purpose even when it was challenging. The question that once tormented me now brings me peace. Yes, I am proud of who I became and how I used the gifts I was given." Today, as we reflect on Harold's story and Edgar Cayce's timeless wisdom, we are confronted with that same profound question. If today were your last day, would you be proud of the life you've lived? Not proud of your accomplishments, but proud of your authenticity. Not proud of your wealth, but proud of your love. Not proud of your status, but proud of your service. This question is not meant to burden you with judgment or fill you with regret. Instead, it's an invitation to course correct if needed, to align more closely with your soul's purpose, to begin living more authentically starting right now. Because the beautiful truth that Edgar Cayce taught is that it's never too late to begin living the life your soul came here to experience. Every morning when you wake up, you have the opportunity to ask yourself, how can I express love today? How can I be of service today? How can I remain true to my deeper purpose today? These simple questions, consistently applied, have the power to transform any life into something you can be genuinely proud of when your time comes to transition from this physical experience. So as we close, let me ask you again with all the love and respect that Edgar Cayce would have shown. If today were your last day, would you be proud of the life you've lived? And if not, what would you change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What does authentic living mean to you? How are you already expressing your soul's purpose? I'll mark every single comment with love because your reflections matter. And if this message touched your heart, please subscribe for more. Transformative wisdom from the sleeping prophet. Together, we can learn to live lives that make our souls proud, one authentic moment at a time. During the Great Depression, Edgar Cayce entered one of his deepest trances and delivered what would become his most profound series of readings about the afterlife. For over 2 hours, this sleeping prophet from Kentucky described in extraordinary detail the immediate experiences every soul encounters after leaving the physical body. What he revealed that day would later be validated by decades of near-death experience research, confirming truths that challenge everything we thought we knew about death. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. The family who received that reading had initially come to Cayce seeking help for a completely different issue. They had no idea they were about to witness one of the most detailed descriptions of the afterlife transition ever documented. By the end of that session, everyone in the room understood they had experienced something that would change humanity's understanding of consciousness forever. Edgar Cayce, America's most documented psychic, gave over 14,000 readings throughout his lifetime. But his revelations about the transition beyond physical death remain some of his most transformative teachings. If you've ever wondered what really happens in those first moments after we cross over, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll mark each one with a heart, because this sacred topic deserves our deepest reverence. And if these insights resonate with your soul, subscribe to join our community, exploring the mysteries of consciousness and spiritual awakening. What makes Cayce's afterlife descriptions so remarkable isn't just their detail, it's how they've been consistently validated by modern science. Dr. Kenneth Ring, one of the world's leading near-death experience researchers, has documented over 3,000 cases that mirror exactly what Cayce described decades earlier. The correlation is so precise that some researchers believe Cayce was accessing the same cosmic information that near-death experiencers encounter during their journeys. Throughout his career in Virginia Beach and beyond, Cayce consistently described 5 universal experiences that every departing soul encounters. These weren't vague spiritual concepts, but detailed descriptions of actual phenomena that modern researchers would later document in thousands of near-death experience cases. But what you're about to discover goes far beyond just what happens after death. These revelations completely transform our understanding of what it means to be human. The first experience, immediate recognition of continuity. In his readings about the afterlife transition, Cayce consistently described what he called the immediate recognition of continuity. According to his documented sessions, the very first thing every soul experiences is the profound realization that consciousness doesn't end with physical death. It simply continues in a different form. But here's where Cayce's description becomes absolutely mind-blowing. He explained that this recognition isn't just intellectual understanding. It's what he termed cellular memory awakening. Every soul suddenly remembers that they've made this transition countless times before. Death isn't new or foreign. It's as familiar as coming home after a long journey. Cayce explained in his readings that this recognition isn't gradual or confused. Instead, departed souls experience an instant, overwhelming understanding that they haven't ceased to exist. In one of his most detailed readings about this transition, he described how souls are amazed by the naturalness of this new state, as if they were simply moving from one room to another in the same house. What makes this even more extraordinary is how Cayce described the soul's reaction to this recognition. According to his readings, there's often what he called cosmic laughter, not amusement, but a deep, joyful recognition of how seriously they had taken the illusion of physical limitation. It's like waking up from a vivid dream and suddenly remembering your true identity. But here's what made Cayce's description remarkable. He emphasized that this continuity comes with expanded awareness. According to his readings, souls don't just realize they still exist, they suddenly understand existence itself in a completely new way. The limitations of physical thinking fall away, replaced by what Cayce termed cosmic consciousness, an awareness that encompasses far more than the human mind could ever grasp. During his sessions in the 1940s, Cayce described how this expanded awareness allows souls to perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously. They can see the physical plane they just left, the spiritual dimensions they're entering, and even glimpse future incarnations and past lives all at once. It's not overwhelming because their consciousness has expanded to accommodate this cosmic perspective. Modern near-death researchers like Dr. Raymond Moody have documented thousands of cases reporting this exact same phenomenon. People consistently describe that moment of recognition when they understand that death is truly just a doorway, not a destination. Dr. Pim van Lommel's groundbreaking research in the Netherlands found that 97% of near-death experiencers report this immediate recognition that consciousness continues beyond physical death. The second experience, the life review process. The second universal experience Cayce described in his readings is what he called the review of the soul's journey. This isn't a judgment imposed by external forces, but rather the soul's own comprehensive understanding of its recent lifetime and how every experience contributed to spiritual growth. But wait until you hear what Cayce revealed about how this review actually works. According to his most detailed readings on this subject, the soul doesn't just observe their life, they experience it from every perspective involved. They feel not only their own emotions throughout their lifetime, but also the emotions of everyone they impacted. Every act of kindness creates waves of joy they can now feel. Every moment of harm brings understanding of the pain they caused others. According to Cayce's most detailed readings on this subject, this review happens in what feels like an instant, but encompasses the soul's entire understanding of every thought, action, and intention from the just completed lifetime. The departed soul sees not just what happened, but why it happened and how each experience served their spiritual development. Here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. Cayce described that during this review, souls often discover that their most challenging experiences were actually their greatest spiritual victories. The divorce that felt devastating was the catalyst that led them to discover their inner strength. The job loss that seemed like failure was the push they needed to pursue their true purpose. The illness that brought suffering also brought compassion and wisdom. Cayce emphasized in his readings that this review is conducted with perfect love and understanding. There's no external judge. The soul itself, now freed from earthly limitations, can see clearly how every joy and every challenge contributed to its evolution. In his sessions about this process, he described how souls often express wonder at the perfection of their life's design, even in moments that seemed random or painful while they were living. During his readings in the war years, Cayce revealed something that brings incredible comfort to grieving families. Souls reviewing their lives often discover that their greatest regrets from Earth were actually unnecessary. The words they wish they had spoken were heard by loved ones through their unexpressed love. The forgiveness they thought they never received was already granted. The legacy they feared they hadn't left was actually profound and lasting. But here's what makes this review process truly transformative according to Cayce's readings. Souls don't just review their recent lifetime, they begin to see the patterns across all their incarnations. They understand how the shy child in this lifetime was developing the humility they needed after being arrogant in a previous life. They see how their struggles with relationships in this incarnation were healing wounds created in other lifetimes. What's particularly fascinating is how Cayce's descriptions align perfectly with modern near-death experience reports. Thousands of people have described this same panoramic life review, where they experience not just their own perspective, but also the perspectives of everyone they impacted throughout their lifetime. Dr. Kenneth Ring's research found that 89% of deep near-death experiences report this comprehensive life review exactly as Cayce described it. The third experience: recognition of spiritual companions. The third experience Cayce consistently described in his afterlife readings is the recognition of what he called spiritual companions, beings who have guided and loved the soul across multiple lifetimes and dimensions. According to his documented sessions, this recognition is immediate and deeply familiar. But here's what will absolutely blow your mind about this reunion. Cayce revealed that these spiritual companions have been present throughout the soul's entire earthly journey. They weren't waiting on the other side. They were right there all along, just beyond the veil of physical perception. Every moment of comfort during difficult times, every sudden inspiration or moment of clarity, every coincidence that guided them toward growth, these were all interventions from their spiritual family. In his readings about the transition process, Cayce explained that newly departed souls are greeted by their spiritual guides, departed loved ones, and what he termed soul companions, beings they've journeyed with across many lifetimes. But this isn't just a reunion with people from their recent life. It's a recognition of eternal spiritual family that transcends any single incarnation. According to Cayce's sessions, when souls recognize these spiritual companions, they experience what he called soul recognition, a knowing that goes far deeper than memory. They don't just remember these beings, they feel the eternal love connection that has existed across eons. It's like recognizing your identical twin after years of separation, but magnified 1,000-fold. Here's what makes this reunion even more incredible. Cayce described how souls often recognize that many of their earthly relationships were actually these same spiritual companions playing different roles. The difficult boss who pushed them to grow might be their most beloved spiritual teacher. The challenging family member who taught them patience could be their dearest soul companion. The brief encounter with a stranger who said exactly what they needed to hear might have been their spiritual guide, taking physical form for just that moment. Cayce's readings described how these meetings are filled with joy and celebration rather than sadness or adjustment. The soul immediately remembers these eternal relationships and understands that physical separation was always temporary. According to his sessions, these spiritual companions have been aware of and supporting the soul's earthly journey all along. But wait, there's something even more amazing that Cayce revealed about these spiritual companions. In his readings about soul groups, he explained that we typically incarnate with the same group of souls over and over again, playing different roles in each lifetime to help each other grow. Your spouse in this lifetime might have been your child in a previous incarnation. Your best friend could have been your sibling in another life. Your greatest teacher might have been your student when roles were reversed. During his sessions in Virginia Beach, Cayce described how this recognition of spiritual companions often brings profound healing to souls who felt unloved or abandoned during their earthly life. They suddenly understand that they were never alone, never unloved, never forgotten. Every prayer was heard, every tear was witnessed, every struggle was supported by an entire team of spiritual beings who love them unconditionally. This aspect of Cayce's teachings has been powerfully validated by near-death experience research. Countless people report being greeted by deceased relatives, spiritual beings, and guides who feel deeply familiar, even when they weren't part of their recent earthly experience. Dr. PMH Atwater's research with over 4,000 near-death experiences found that 94% report meeting spiritual beings who feel like eternal family. The fourth experience, understanding of free will and choice. In his most profound readings about the afterlife, Cayce described the fourth universal experience as the soul's complete understanding of free will and its eternal power to choose its spiritual path. According to his documented sessions, this understanding brings what he called divine liberation. But here's what makes this revelation absolutely revolutionary. Cayce explained that souls suddenly understand that free will extends far beyond what they realized while incarnated. They discover they have choices they never knew existed. They can choose to reincarnate immediately or spend eons in spiritual dimensions learning and serving. They can choose to become guides for other souls or to explore realms of existence beyond current human comprehension. Cayce's readings revealed that departed souls suddenly comprehend that they have always been and continue to be co-creators of their spiritual journey. They understand that every experience in their recent lifetime was chosen for growth, and they now have the freedom to choose their path forward from this new dimension of existence. According to his sessions during the 1940s, this understanding of choice brings what Cayce called cosmic responsibility. Souls realize that with infinite freedom comes infinite opportunity to serve the greater good of all existence. They understand that their choices don't just affect their own spiritual evolution, but contribute to the spiritual evolution of all consciousness. Here's where this gets absolutely mind-blowing. Cayce revealed that souls in this state can choose to split their consciousness, existing simultaneously in multiple dimensions and even multiple incarnations. Advanced souls might choose to incarnate as several different people at the same time, living multiple lives to accelerate their spiritual growth and service to others. But here's what made this revelation particularly comforting in Cayce's readings. Souls also understand that they can choose to maintain loving connections with those still in physical form. They're not required to move on or detach completely. Instead, they gain the wisdom to love and support from their expanded awareness without interfering with the growth experiences of their earthly loved ones. During his readings about communication between dimensions, Cayce explained that departed souls can choose to send signs, inspiration, and comfort to their loved ones on Earth. But they do so with perfect wisdom about when such communication will help, rather than hinder their loved one's spiritual growth. Every dream visitation, every sudden sense of presence, every meaningful coincidence is a conscious choice made by departed souls to remind their earthly family that love transcends all boundaries. According to Cayce's sessions on this topic, this understanding of choice extends to the soul's future incarnations, spiritual lessons, and service to other souls. The departed realize they're eternal beings with infinite opportunities for growth and service across multiple dimensions of existence. But here's something that will transform how you think about your current life. Cayce revealed that souls in this state often choose to send guidance back to their own earthly incarnation. Yes, you read that right. Your future self, the you that exists after this lifetime, may be guiding your current choices and sending you inspiration from beyond time. That sudden insight, that persistent feeling to make a certain choice, that dream that changes everything. It might be your own expanded consciousness guiding you from the future. The fifth experience, access to universal knowledge. The fifth and perhaps most extraordinary experience Cayce described in his afterlife readings is the soul's sudden access to what he called universal knowledge, or the Akashic records. According to his documented sessions, departed souls gain the ability to understand cosmic truths that were hidden during physical incarnation. But prepare yourself for what Cayce revealed about this cosmic library. It's not just a collection of information. It's a living, interactive dimension of consciousness, where souls can experience any event that has ever occurred, explore any possibility that could occur, and understand the connections between all things across all time and space. In his readings about this phenomenon, Cayce explained that souls can suddenly comprehend the interconnectedness of all existence, the purpose behind cosmic laws, and their role in the greater spiritual evolution of consciousness itself. This isn't overwhelming information dumps, but rather a natural expansion of awareness that feels completely normal in their new state. According to Cayce's sessions, when souls access these records, they can instantly understand the spiritual reasons behind world events, the karmic patterns that connect all souls, and the ultimate destiny of human consciousness. They see how every thought, every action, every choice ripples through the cosmic web of existence, affecting everything and everyone in ways that the human mind could never comprehend. Here's what makes this access to universal knowledge absolutely staggering. Cayce described how souls can explore not just what has been, but what could be. They can examine alternate timelines where different choices were made, explore potential futures based on current planetary consciousness, and understand how their own decisions across lifetimes have shaped the evolution of entire civilizations. Cayce's readings described how souls use this expanded knowledge to understand their past incarnations, recognize patterns in their spiritual development, and comprehend the lessons they came to Earth to learn. According to his sessions, this knowledge also helps them understand how to best serve other souls, both those still incarnated and those in spiritual dimensions. During his readings in the late 1930s, Cayce revealed that access to universal knowledge allows souls to understand the true history of Earth, including civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria that most humans have forgotten. They can see the spiritual technologies these ancient civilizations possessed, understand why they fell, and recognize how their souls contributed to both the achievements and the destruction of these advanced societies. But here's something that will completely revolutionize your understanding of life purpose. Cayce explained that souls with access to universal knowledge can see the future of human consciousness. They understand where humanity is headed spiritually, what challenges and opportunities lie ahead, and how their own future incarnations will contribute to this cosmic evolution. This knowledge helps them choose their next incarnation with perfect wisdom about when, where, and under what circumstances they can be most helpful to humanity's spiritual awakening. Perhaps most remarkably, Cayce's descriptions of this expanded awareness perfectly match what advanced near-death experiencers report when they describe accessing universal consciousness or cosmic knowledge during their experiences. Dr. Kenneth Ring documented cases where people returned from near-death experiences with knowledge they couldn't have acquired through normal means, scientific information that hadn't been discovered yet, historical details about events they never studied, and spiritual insights that transform their understanding of existence. According to Cayce's readings, some souls become so enthralled with this access to universal knowledge that they choose to remain in these dimensions for extended periods, serving as cosmic librarians and teachers for other souls making the transition. They become part of what he called the Council of Knowledge, advanced beings who help newly departed souls understand their eternal nature and choose their path forward. The profound connection between life and death. Here's where Edgar Cayce's revelations become absolutely life-changing for those of us still incarnated. Everything he described about the afterlife experience is actually accessible to us right now. In his readings about meditation and spiritual development, Cayce explained that these same 5 experiences can be touched during deep spiritual states while we're still alive. During his sessions about spiritual development, Cayce revealed that meditation, prayer, and service to others can give us glimpses of that recognition of continuity. We can experience moments where we know with absolute certainty that we are eternal beings. The life review process can happen through honest self-reflection and taking responsibility for our actions. Recognition of spiritual companions occurs when we feel guided, supported, and loved by unseen presences. Understanding our free will and choice becomes clear when we take responsibility for creating our reality. And access to universal knowledge opens up through intuition, inspiration, and those moments of knowing that seem to come from beyond our personal experience. According to Cayce's readings about the purpose of incarnation, we don't come to Earth to prepare for the afterlife. We come to Earth to bring the afterlife into physical expression. We're here to demonstrate that consciousness is eternal, that love transcends all boundaries, that spiritual laws govern physical reality, and that every soul is connected to every other soul in the cosmic web of existence. The scientific validation. What makes Edgar Cayce's afterlife revelations even more extraordinary is how consistently they've been validated by modern consciousness research. The International Association for Near-Death Studies has documented over 15,000 cases that mirror exactly what Cayce described in his readings decades before this research began. Dr. Sam Parnia's groundbreaking AWARE study, conducted in hospitals across multiple countries, found evidence that consciousness continues during cardiac arrest, exactly what Cayce described as the recognition of continuity. Dr. Bruce Grayson's research at the University of Virginia has documented hundreds of cases where near-death experiencers returned with verified information they couldn't have acquired through normal means. Validation of Cayce's descriptions of access to universal knowledge. The shared death experience research conducted by Dr. Raymond Moody has documented cases where healthy individuals present at the moment of someone's death experience the same 5 phenomena Cayce described. Further evidence that these aren't hallucinations, but actual experiences of consciousness transitioning between dimensions. The eternal implications. What makes Edgar Cayce's revelations about these 5 experiences so profound is how they completely transform our understanding of what it means to be human. We're not physical beings having a temporary spiritual experience. We're eternal spiritual beings, temporarily focused through physical form. Death isn't something that happens to us. It's something we do consciously as we graduate from one classroom of existence to another. According to Cayce's readings, every soul is on an eternal journey of growth, service, and love. Every experience, whether joyful or challenging, contributes to this spiritual evolution. Every relationship, whether harmonious or difficult, provides opportunities for soul development. Every lifetime, whether long or short, serves the greater purpose of consciousness awakening to its own divine nature. But beyond validation, these teachings offer us something invaluable, a roadmap for understanding that death is not an ending but a graduation. According to Cayce's readings, every soul is eternal, every experience has purpose, and love truly transcends all boundaries, even the boundary between life and death. These insights from the sleeping prophet of Virginia Beach remind us that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings hoping for a spiritual future. The 5 experiences he described aren't just what happens after we die. They're revelations about the nature of consciousness itself and our eternal journey of growth, service, and love. During his final years, Cayce often spoke about how understanding these afterlife experiences should transform how we live. If we know that consciousness continues, how does that change our priorities? If we understand that every action ripples through eternity, how does that affect our choices? If we recognize that we're surrounded by spiritual companions, how does that eliminate our loneliness? If we comprehend our infinite free will, how does that empower our current incarnation? If we believe we have access to universal knowledge, how does that expand our potential? As we reflect on these profound teachings, consider how understanding these truths might transform how you approach your current lifetime. Are you living as an eternal being temporarily focused through physical form? Are you recognizing the spiritual companions who surround you? Are you making choices that reflect your understanding of cosmic free will? Are you accessing the universal knowledge available through intuition and inspiration? If you found these insights meaningful, share your reflections in the comments below. I'll personally heart every thoughtful response because these conversations matter deeply. Tell me which of these 5 experiences resonates most strongly with you and how this knowledge might change your approach to living. And don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into Edgar Cayce's timeless wisdom about consciousness, healing, and our spiritual destiny. The sleeping prophet's gift to humanity wasn't just glimpses of the afterlife. It was the understanding that we are all eternal souls, forever connected, forever growing, forever loved. Death is not the opposite of life. It's the continuation of life in its truest form. And that understanding changes everything about how we choose to live, love, and serve while we're here in physical form. Remember, you are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and that makes all the difference. Every night, when your body surrenders to deep sleep, something far greater than rest takes place. Edgar Cayce, called the Sleeping Prophet, revealed a vision so unsettling that it shakes the very foundation of what we believe about life, death, and the soul. He taught that in the silence of deep sleep, the soul begins to loosen its ties, crossing into realms that most people will never consciously remember. These are not dreams created by the brain, but real journeys of the spirit, tethered only by the mysterious silver cord. And Cayce warned that what the soul experiences in those hidden hours can define your faith, your peace, and even the way you face eternity. This is not superstition, and it is not a story. It is a revelation drawn from Cayce's documented readings, preserved for those willing to face the truth. Watch carefully until the end, because this vision may forever change how you see your nights of sleep. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I will mark each one with a little heart. When Edgar Cayce spoke about the mystery of sleep, he was not speaking as a philosopher nor as a dreamer of ideas. He spoke as a man whose entire life was marked by visions that came in states of trance, and he described sleep as the closest bridge to the world of the spirit. According to his readings, the deepest stages of sleep were not merely rest for the body, but a release for the soul. Cayce explained that while the body lies still, the soul is active, connected to higher planes, and in some cases, traveling to realms beyond our comprehension. What makes this revelation so striking is that Cayce did not treat dreams as random fragments of thought. He insisted they were real experiences of the spirit, encounters that could teach us, warn us, or even heal us. For him, every night of sleep was a rehearsal of eternity, a time when the soul stepped closer to its divine source. Cayce explained that the body is designed by God to require rest, because only when the senses are quiet can the soul perform its higher work. He described the nervous system as a doorway through which spiritual forces flow, and he stated that in deep sleep, the soul leaves behind the constant noise of the conscious mind and begins to commune with dimensions of truth. Many times in his readings, he said that individuals met with guides, angels, and even departed loved ones during sleep, yet most people remembered only fragments upon waking. For Cayce, forgetting did not mean it never happened. He warned that even when we forget our journeys, the soul is influenced by them, returning to the body with impressions that shape our emotions, our health, and our choices. The terrifying part of Cayce's vision is this: deep sleep is not always safe territory. He explained that the state of mind and heart of a person determines where the soul may travel. If the heart is heavy with anger, fear, or hatred, the soul may find itself in realms of confusion and darkness, feeding upon the very emotions carried during the day. On the other hand, if the person lives with prayer, faith, and love, the soul may enter realms of light, peace, and healing. According to Cayce, every night of sleep becomes a silent judgment, an unseen reflection of our true spiritual condition. That is why he urged people to pray before going to bed, to cleanse the mind of bitterness, and to fill the heart with gratitude. For him, this was not ritual, but protection for the soul's nightly journey. Cayce also emphasized that the silver cord, the same thread described in Ecclesiastes, remains attached as long as life endures. This cord is what keeps the soul connected to the physical body. In sleep, the soul may rise, it may travel, but it always returns through this tether of divine design. Only at death is the cord finally broken, but Cayce explained that in deep sleep, the soul may extend very far, visiting spiritual realms and returning with insights that later appear as intuition or inspiration. When a poet writes lines that seem to come from nowhere, or when a scientist suddenly sees the solution to a problem after waking, Cayce would say that the soul had been taught in sleep. This was not imagination, but spiritual education beyond human classrooms. Think of the implication. Every night your soul is moving, observing, learning, and even struggling in realities unseen. For Cayce, this was not theory but experience confirmed in thousands of readings. He described how people would come to him with dreams they could not explain, and through his trance state, he would reveal that these were not accidents of the brain, but journeys of the soul into planes of the spirit. Sometimes the lessons were warnings, like a soul being shown the consequences of selfishness. Other times they were healings, where the spirit received strength and the body later improved. Cayce insisted that our dreams were reports from our soul's nightly travels, carrying messages from realms both bright and dark. This vision forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. If our soul truly moves in deep sleep, then the life we live during the day shapes the destinations of the night. The anger we carry, the love we nurture, the prayers we offer, all of these prepare the soul for the journey when the eyes close and the body rests. For Cayce, nothing was hidden. The soul could not lie in the silence of sleep. It would go where it belonged according to its vibration, and this is why he described sleep as a rehearsal for death. Each night, the soul practices leaving the body, traveling, and returning. Each night, we taste eternity in fragments we barely understand. Cayce's teachings about vibration are essential to understand what happens in deep sleep. He often repeated that like attracts like in the spiritual sense. Just as in life we are drawn to people and experiences that reflect our inner state, so too in sleep, the soul is drawn to planes of reality that match its vibration. If you fall asleep filled with resentment, that vibration carries into the spiritual dimension, attracting environments of confusion. If you fall asleep with gratitude, prayer, and a desire to serve, your soul finds itself in uplifting realms of light. Cayce explained that this law is as unbreakable as gravity, and it operates whether or not we are aware of it. That is why he insisted that the last thoughts before sleep set the tone for the entire journey of the soul. In his readings, Cayce often described the body as a temple, and sleep as the time when the temple doors are closed to the outer world, so that inner work may begin. The soul, he said, takes this opportunity to rise, to study, to meet with guides, and sometimes to heal itself. Many who came to him with health problems were told that healing processes had been taking place during their sleep, but they needed to align their waking habits with those higher influences. Without alignment, the healing would not remain. This was a radical view for his time, because medicine considered sleep only as rest for the brain. Yet Cayce spoke of sleep as a sacred appointment between the soul and the divine order of creation. But there is a more sobering side to these revelations. Cayce warned that neglecting spiritual discipline during the day could expose the soul to dangerous experiences in sleep. He spoke of people who returned from deep sleep more restless, more fearful, or more burdened than before. According to him, their souls had wandered into planes of unrest, places filled with the echoes of negative thought. These experiences were not punishment, but reflections of inner disharmony. Just as a dirty lens cannot show a clear image, a troubled soul cannot perceive higher realms. For this reason, Cayce's advice was always practical. Keep the mind pure, the heart clean, and the last thought before sleep directed toward God. He also explained that in deep sleep the soul is closest to what he called the Akashic records, the universal book of memory where every deed, thought, and intention is written. Though most people do not consciously access it, Cayce said that the soul touches this record every night, bringing back traces that appear as intuition, sudden knowledge, or even a guilty conscience. He revealed that some of the greatest inspirations in history were not random but were impressions received during sleep. Yet he cautioned that access to these records depends on the readiness of the individual. A person filled with selfish motives may find only confusion, while a person seeking truth and service may return with wisdom. Perhaps the most terrifying part of Cayce's vision is the idea that deep sleep reveals who we really are when all masks are removed. In waking life we can hide behind polite words or social roles, but in sleep the soul cannot disguise itself. It vibrates honestly, and it travels accordingly. Cayce explained that this is why many people wake up feeling heavy, without understanding why. Their souls had been wandering in lower planes, weighed down by unspoken fears and unresolved conflicts. Others wake up refreshed, peaceful, or inspired, because their souls had been lifted to higher realms. Sleep, then, is a mirror of the soul's true condition, a nightly reflection of the path we are walking in eternity. This truth unsettled many of Cayce's listeners, because it meant that spiritual growth could not be faked. You could not deceive the soul into better destinations. You could only prepare through daily choices, prayers, and the cultivation of love. He urged parents to guide children with bedtime prayers, not as empty rituals but as genuine acts that would guide the soul into realms of light. For adults, he repeated the same advice. End the day with reflection, forgiveness, and gratitude, for those thoughts would become the passport of the soul's nightly travels. The question arises, if this is true, what happens when we die? Cayce answered that death is nothing more than the soul continuing the same process that happens every night in sleep, only without returning to the body. The same law applies. Where you go after death depends on your vibration, shaped by choices and attitudes. Thus, every night of deep sleep becomes a rehearsal for the great transition. By understanding this, Cayce believed we could prepare for eternity not in fear, but with reverence and responsibility. Cayce also spoke about the relationship between dreams and deep sleep. He explained that not every dream comes from the subconscious alone. Many are actual reports of what the soul encountered during its journey. When people dream of speaking with a loved one who has passed, Cayce often confirmed that this was more than imagination. It was a true meeting of souls on another plane. When individuals dream of being trapped, chased, or wandering in darkness, he would explain that their souls had indeed moved into realms of unrest that reflected their inner conflicts. He did not dismiss dreams as illusions, but treated them as coded messages, windows into the soul's nightly experiences. For Cayce, the dream world was not fiction but spiritual geography, revealing where the soul had traveled and what it had learned or endured. In one of his most profound insights, Cayce said that during deep sleep, the soul renews its connection to God. He described the spirit as constantly seeking its source, like a river flowing back to the ocean. Sleep provides the moment when the obstacles of waking life fall away and the soul can draw near to its creator. This is why, he explained, sleep restores not only the body but also the mind and heart. Without that connection, life would collapse into confusion. The terrifying reality, however, is that this renewal is not automatic. If a person blocks the spirit through hatred, selfishness, or disbelief, the connection may be weakened, and the soul may return from sleep tired rather than renewed. Cayce's warning was simple. What we carry into sleep shapes the strength of the connection we receive. He further explained that children and those pure of heart often travel easily into higher realms in sleep. Their souls are unburdened, open, and naturally attuned to divine harmony. Adults, on the other hand, often complicate the process with fear, guilt, and worldly attachments. Yet Cayce was hopeful. He emphasized that through prayer, forgiveness, and spiritual discipline, anyone could prepare their soul to ascend in sleep. He described the act of reading scripture, meditating, or praying before bed as fuel for the soul's journey. Just as a traveler prepares with food and supplies, so too must the soul be supplied with spiritual strength for the road of the night. Cayce also described moments when sleep allowed the soul to bring back healing power. He gave readings where individuals were told that during deep sleep, their bodies had been realigned, their organs strengthened, or their energies balanced by forces of the spirit. He explained that these processes are possible because the soul has access to patterns of perfection written by God in the spiritual dimension. When the soul aligns with those patterns in sleep, the physical body receives healing. Yet he also warned that negative emotions could interrupt or weaken this flow, leaving the body vulnerable. Thus, even physical health was linked to the soul's condition during deep sleep. This perspective opens a challenging question. Are we responsible for what happens in our sleep? Cayce's answer was yes, indirectly. While we cannot control where the soul goes once detached, we can control the preparation. Just as a farmer cannot control the rain but can prepare the soil, we can shape the soil of our souls before sleep. What we read, think, and feel before closing our eyes becomes the seed of the night. Cayce urged people to make that seed holy, filling it with love, forgiveness, and truth. Then, even if we do not remember the journey, the soul will return strengthened, and the fruit will show in our waking life. For many, this teaching is both comforting and frightening. Comforting because it means every night holds the possibility of communion with God, healing and guidance. Frightening because it means every night may also expose us to darkness if we neglect the inner life. Cayce's terrifying vision, then, was not meant to cause fear without purpose. It was a warning, a call to responsibility, a reminder that we are spiritual beings every moment, even when unconscious. The soul does not sleep. It only changes realms, and the state of those realms reflects who we are becoming in eternity. Cayce taught that the design of God's creation is perfect, and nothing is wasted. Even the hours of sleep, which the world often treats as unproductive, are filled with meaning. He said that while the body rests, the soul is fulfilling purposes unseen. Some souls are studying in realms of knowledge, preparing themselves for service. Others are meeting those who will one day cross their paths in waking life, weaving together the unseen threads of destiny. Still others are confronting their own weaknesses, facing them in symbolic forms that later appear as dreams of struggle. To Cayce, all of this was evidence that life is continuous and purposeful, with sleep acting as one of the bridges between the visible and the invisible. He described how the conscious mind is like a gatekeeper. During the day it holds control, filtering what comes in and what goes out. But in deep sleep that gatekeeper steps aside. This allows the subconscious and the superconscious to communicate more freely, and the soul can interact with realms that are normally blocked. For Cayce, this explained why people sometimes wake up with clarity they did not have before, or why answers to problems arrive after a night's rest. He said it was not the brain alone working things out, but the soul bringing back impressions from higher planes of truth. Yet he also gave warnings. If the conscious mind is filled with negativity, the same law of attraction applies when the gatekeeper steps aside. Darkness enters more easily, and the soul drifts toward realms that echo that negativity. Cayce's terrifying vision was that many souls waste the gift of sleep, filling it with restless wandering instead of divine renewal. He explained that this is why people often wake up more tired than when they went to bed. Their bodies may have rested, but their souls had been in turmoil, unable to rise above the weight of fear, greed, or resentment. Cayce urged people to recognize that sleep is sacred. He said it should begin with prayer, not out of ritual, but out of necessity. Just as one would not begin a dangerous journey without preparation, so one should not enter sleep without aligning with God. He encouraged the use of simple prayers, the reading of scripture, and acts of forgiveness before bed. These practices, he said, not only direct the soul to higher planes, but also strengthen the silver cord, making the journey safe. He reassured his listeners that no soul could be completely lost during sleep as long as the cord remained intact, but he reminded them that the quality of the journey depends on the quality of the heart. One of the most fascinating aspects of his teachings is how he connected sleep with prophecy. Cayce himself entered trance states similar to deep sleep to deliver his readings. In that condition, he claimed to access the Akashic records and spiritual guidance beyond the physical world. He explained that everyone touches these same dimensions in deep sleep, though without conscious control. He believed that some prophetic dreams recorded in the Bible were born from this process, when the soul, in communion with God during sleep, was shown visions of what was to come. He pointed to figures like Joseph, Daniel, and others as examples of how God speaks through the language of dreams when the soul is freed in deep rest. This connection to prophecy also revealed the seriousness of how we live. Cayce said that only those prepared by purity, faith, and humility could receive true visions. Others might only experience confusion or distortion. The terrifying reality is that every night brings us close to the realm of prophecy, but not everyone can see. Most return with fragments, half-remembered symbols, or nothing at all. Yet Cayce encouraged people not to despair, but to work daily on lifting their vibration so that when sleep came, the soul could be taught by higher beings. He emphasized again and again that deep sleep is not an escape from life, but a continuation of it. The law of cause and effect operates in sleep as it does in waking. If we live with selfishness, we reap unrest. If we live with love, we reap peace. The soul cannot escape its truth, not even for a night. For Cayce, this was both the warning and the hope. Sleep reveals the eternal law in miniature, every single night. Cayce also connected the mystery of deep sleep with the destiny of the soul after death. He often explained that the transition we call dying is simply an extension of what happens every night when we sleep. In both cases, the soul leaves the body, travels into other realms, and experiences realities that reflect its vibration. The only difference is that in sleep, the silver cord remains unbroken, allowing the soul to return. In death, the cord is severed, and the soul continues its journey without returning. This comparison was meant to remove fear from death, but it also magnified the seriousness of sleep. If each night is a rehearsal for eternity, then the way we prepare for sleep is also preparation for our final passage. In his readings, Cayce described how souls in deep sleep sometimes touch the border of heavenly realms, where light is overwhelming and peace is beyond words. Others, however, drift into the shadows, into dimensions of confusion where lost souls wander. He explained that these experiences are shaped by the quality of one's inner life. This is why two people can share the same bed in the same house, yet one may wake up inspired and peaceful, while the other wakes up exhausted and disturbed. Their bodies rested equally, but their souls traveled to different realms. This, Cayce said, is the terrifying vision of sleep. It exposes the truth of who we are, whether we like it or not. Cayce never used fear as manipulation. His warnings were always balanced with hope. He said that no matter how heavy the soul's condition, transformation is possible. Prayer, forgiveness, meditation, and acts of service can lift the vibration of the soul and change the journeys of the night. He believed that even the simplest prayer before sleep, like "Lord, guide my soul in thy light," could alter the entire course of where the soul travels. For him, prayer was not a superstition, but a spiritual law, opening doors to realms of peace. He urged everyone to take those last moments before sleep seriously, because they decide whether the night becomes a time of turmoil or of healing. He also warned against substances and habits that cloud the mind before bed. Alcohol, anger, and unclean thoughts, he said, weaken the gatekeeper and invite the soul into lower realms. On the other hand, music, scripture, or silent meditation prepare the mind like a sanctuary, guiding the soul upward. Cayce even suggested that keeping a notebook for dreams by the bed was valuable, because recording them gave respect to the messages of the soul. He said that when people honor their dreams, they are more likely to remember them, and in remembering they learn from the journeys of the night. The vision is sobering. Every night, millions of souls leave their bodies, wander unseen dimensions, and return silently to continue daily life. Most do not realize the significance of what has taken place, but Cayce insisted that it matters, that it shapes the soul's growth, and that it reveals the unseen justice of God. If we sow anger, we harvest unrest in sleep. If we sow love, we harvest peace. No one escapes this law. This is why he called sleep both a gift and a test. It is a gift because it renews us, teaches us, and connects us to God. It is a test because it reflects the truth of who we are becoming. Cayce explained that the soul's nightly travels during deep sleep are not accidents, but part of a divine order. He described how angels, guides, and even departed loved ones sometimes accompany the soul, protecting it and teaching it. Yet he also warned that negative forces may appear when the heart is unprepared. For Cayce, these were not fantasies but real encounters in the unseen world. He urged people not to dismiss their dreams too quickly, because within them may be traces of meetings with the spiritual beings who guide our destiny. He explained that many times, an ancestor, a parent, or a friend who has passed on will attempt to comfort or guide us during sleep. When we wake and remember their presence, we may doubt, but Cayce said such experiences are proof of the continuity of life. This teaching challenged traditional views. Most of his contemporaries considered dreams as fragments of memory or imagination, but Cayce spoke with certainty that deep sleep is a spiritual journey, and that the figures we meet are often real. He explained that God designed sleep not only to heal the body, but to remind the soul that it is eternal. Every night the soul is given a chance to taste its true home, whether in light or in shadow. This is why he considered the hours of sleep sacred. He even called the bed an altar where the soul departs and returns. To him, this was a holy process, as important as prayer and not to be taken lightly. Another striking element of his vision is how he connected sleep with responsibility. Cayce explained that people often excuse their inner state by blaming circumstances. But in sleep there are no excuses. The soul cannot hide behind appearances or words. It travels according to its vibration, honestly and without disguise. This was terrifying because it meant that every night we are confronted with our true selves. If we have lived in anger, we travel in anger. If we have lived in love, we travel in love. The journey is not assigned by an outside judge, but chosen by the condition of the heart. Cayce said this was God's justice. Perfect, impartial, and unchanging, he insisted that understanding this vision could transform daily life. If you know that tonight your soul will journey into realms shaped by your thoughts, would you not prepare more carefully? If you knew that your last prayer could lift you to the presence of God or protect you from darkness, Would you not pray with sincerity? Cayce believed that such awareness could awaken humanity to its true spiritual dignity. Sleep would no longer be wasted, but embraced as a nightly encounter with eternity. He urged people to live each day with purpose, knowing that the night would reflect it. For Cayce, the terrifying part was not the existence of darkness, but the indifference of people toward their own souls. He said that ignoring the truth of sleep leads to confusion, fear, and even illness, but honoring it opens doors to wisdom, healing, and communion with the divine. His message remains clear. Every night the soul moves, every night it learns, and every night it shows us where we truly belong. The challenge is whether we will listen. Cayce believed that if humanity understood what truly happens in deep sleep, the way people approached life and faith would change forever. He said that many fear death because they do not realize they experience a version of it every night. Sleep is the gentle teacher of eternity, preparing the soul step by step for the greater journey ahead. Those who practice faith, forgiveness, and prayer are lifted during the night, returning with impressions of peace. Those who live with anger or selfishness descend into realms of unrest, returning tired and uneasy. This law operates. Cayce explained that God's universe is built on harmony, and every soul vibrates according to its choices. Sleep simply reveals that harmony or disharmony. He often reminded his listeners that sleep is not wasted time, but sacred time. He said that some of the greatest inspirations of human history came in moments of deep sleep, when the soul touched higher realms and returned with knowledge. He pointed to inventors, poets, prophets, and ordinary people who received guidance in dreams that later changed their lives. For him, this was proof that the divine communicates constantly with humanity, but most ignore or forget the messages. Cayce encouraged people to respect their dreams, to record them, and to pray for understanding, because within them may lie answers to the most pressing questions of life. The terrifying vision of Cayce is also the hopeful vision, that every night we are closer to God than we imagine. The fear comes from realizing that our hidden state is revealed in sleep. The hope comes from knowing that change is always possible, that tonight can be different if we choose a different path today. He emphasized that God never abandons the soul. The silver cord remains as long as life endures, and the light is always available to those who seek it. The challenge is to prepare, to live with intention, and to approach sleep with reverence. So tonight, when you lay down in silence, remember that more than rest is waiting. Your soul will rise, it will travel, it will be drawn to the realm that reflects your true vibration. This is not fiction. It is the spiritual reality Edgar Cayce revealed through his thousands of readings. Let his warning shake you, but let his hope strengthen you. Sleep is not an end. It is a passage, a rehearsal, a reminder that you are an eternal being on a journey without end. Take these hours seriously, for within them lies both your reflection and your preparation for eternity. Before you go, I want to ask, what do you believe happens to your soul in deep sleep? Share your answer in the comments and I will mark every comment with a little heart. If this message has touched you, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notifications so you never miss these revelations. Stay with us until the end, because together we will continue to explore the mysteries that Edgar Cayce unveiled about the soul, life, and eternity. And